Hello students, I am Dr. G.S. Sodhi. Today I bring you the first learning episode on behalf of the content writers myself and Deepika Bhandari on an important unit, that is Basics of Criminology. This episode will deal with the growth of criminology over the years. Further, we will also discuss about the branches of criminology along with a mention of the scope and aim of criminology. Towards the end of the episode, we will learn about the relationship between criminology and forensic science and different methods used for analyzing criminal behavior in criminology. Let's start this module with a look at what we are going to learn today. Module 1, Introduction. Module 2, Growth of Criminology. Module 3, Branches and Scope of Criminology. Module 4, Relation between Criminology and Forensic Science. Module 5, Methods and Techniques used in Criminology. Module 6, Conclusion. Let us begin discussing the concept of criminology. The term criminology has been derived from a French word criminologia, which was first coined by French anthropologist named Paul Topinard. Criminology is defined as a systematic study of nature, extent, control, causes and prevention of criminal behavior in both the individual as well as in the society. It is an interdisciplinary field which spreads across the various spheres of social and behavioral sciences. In other words, it is a science that deals with different aspects of human behavior that violate criminal law. It can also be defined as a subdivision of knowledge which embraces etiology of criminal behavior, response of society towards crime, the control of crime and correction or rehabilitation of criminals. In other words, it studies those aspects of social action that violate the criminal statutes. An eminent criminologist, Eliot, defines criminology as the scientific study of crime and its treatment. His definition, besides emphasizing scientific investigation into the nature of etiology of crime, underscores practical or functional nature of this field and formulating ways and methods to prevent or reduce the occurrence of crime and rehabilitate criminals as normal members of the society. Webster defines criminology as the scientific study of crime as a social phenomenon or of criminals and their mental traits, habits and disciplines. This definition is credited for highlighting the sociological as well as psychological characteristics of crime and the criminal. Criminology further deals with human beings who are both the producers of society and its laws, and at the same time they are also violators of laws of the society. In this regard, human beings are both conformists and deviants in the society. Therefore, criminology combines the elements of its scientific methodology as well as those of humanities to its approach to deal with the violation of law. Let us now learn about the growth of criminology over the years since its inception. During the 18th and 19th centuries, the emphasis of criminologists and sociologists across the world was on reorganization of criminal law and not on finding the causes and factors that resulted in crime. The scholars were concerned with reforming the severe criminal laws. The stress was mainly on the humanistic and philanthropic aspects. The establishment of criminology as a field of study can be traced back to the 18th century, when two social theorists, Cesare Beccaria in Italy and Jeremy Bentham in England pursued the idea that the punishment given to the offenders should be so harsh and severe that it deters the criminal from committing the crime. This was known as the classical school of criminology. Although the classical school of thought focused mainly on the ideology of punishments, it did not deal with the factors or situations responsible for the criminal behavior, neither did it differentiate between varying degrees of crimes. An array of sociologists and criminologists therefore started to drift from this ideology. These criminologists were known as the positivists. The positivists believed that the punishment should fit the criminal, not the crime. Further, they also paid attention to the factors that situations that prevailed during the commission of crime, which must have forced the individual to indulge into this deviant behavior. Lombroso, Fari and Garofalo were the three major positivists who emphasized the importance of the biological or psychological incapacity of an individual. In other words, these positivist scholars articulated the role of biogenic, that is, genetic or the biological factors in an individual's tendency to indulge in criminal behavior. Lombroso, described as the father of criminology, was an Italian physician and professor of criminal anthropology. He gave the theory of evolutionary atavism in 1876. According to him, criminals are a separate group, a group which is sandwiched between modern and primitive humans. He argued that physical shape of the head and face define a born criminal. Apart from these, in 1947, Sutherland and Cressy defined criminology as the body of knowledge regarding the delinquency and crime as social phenomena. It includes the process of creating laws, breaking laws and reacting towards the breaking of laws. They further pointed out that society regards certain undesirable acts as crime. The people know this, but they still continue with their criminal behavior. The society checks it by punishing and treating criminals. It also adopts the required measures to prevent crime. Coming to our country, India, the study of criminology started way back in 1940 by imparting education to the officers at Jail Officers Training School in Lucknow. Further, Max Weber, a German sociologist and criminologist, regarded sociology as value free since it did not give answers as to how people should behave. According to his approach, a science cannot be value oriented, and the purpose of scientific sociology is to understand the social events and not to suggest value oriented solutions. In his approach, we studied the meanings people give to their actions. In accordance with the ideology of Max Weber, Horton and Hunt in 1984 have elaborated the characteristics of the scientific observations. Let us enlist these observations one by one. According to them, scientific observation is based upon verifiable evidence. It is accurate, that is, the facts are described as they are without any extrapolation or elaboration. It is precise, that is, the observer precisely refers to the measurements or its degree. It is systematic, it is recordable, it is objective, which means that the observation is unaffected by observers' own beliefs, values and attitudes, likes and dislikes. Lastly, they highlighted the fact that scientific observations are made by trained observers, and thus the future researchers should be trained in the methodology of observations. Dear students, after having learned about the growth of criminology over the years, let us now try to understand the different branches of criminology. The field of criminology comprises of three principal branches. These are number 1, sociology of crime, number 2, criminal etiology, and number 3, penology. Let us discuss these different branches one by one. Sociology of crime is the branch of criminology that studies the nature, extent, causes and control of criminal behavior both at the individual and the societal level. It is a study of the social aspects of a crime where it states that crime has a social basis. Crime defined as a violation of law or laws is a form of deviance. Deviance is defined as any behavior that violates social norms and usually causes disturbance in the harmony of the society. Apart from criminal category of deviance, there is also a non-criminal category of deviance or behavior which is criticized but not prohibited by law. These include alcoholism, gambling and the like. But this definition of criminal and non-criminal deviant behavior is not standardized universally, but varies across different societies and situations. It is therefore sometimes difficult to differentiate between non-criminal deviance and criminal deviance. Next is criminal etiology. It is an effort towards the scientific and systematic investigation of the causes of crime. The word etiology means the origin. Here, the focus is on the reason behind committing crime. In other words, etiology of crime takes into consideration all the factors and situations that have contributed in the cause of crime. Lastly, the third branch of criminology is penology. The term penology is derived from the Latin word of penia, meaning pain or suffering. Penology is that division of criminology which concerns itself with the philosophy and practice of society in its efforts to repress criminal activities through punishments. It is narrowly defined as the study of prisons which have been used in some variations for hundreds of years to punish people who have committed crimes. Some scholars argue that the focus of penology is on prison management and prison administration, while others are convinced that penology is a broader concept that includes how crimes are defined and punished. In other words, penology is defined as the scientific approach to crime submitted in order to check the rate of crime or bring it under control. Having learned about the different branches of criminology, let us now have a look at the different areas where the field of criminology has its utility. Like other social sciences, the scope of criminology is elaborate and extensive. It is related to every class and structure of society. Though the scope of criminology is very vast and extensive, the criminologists have tried to illustrate it in the following scenarios. In law enforcement agencies like police and investigation services, in judicial institutions like courts and tribunals, in correctional institutions like prisons and reformatories, in educational institutions like colleges and schools, and finally in research where the researchers use criminology to study and find the causes behind crime and to study the behavioral pattern of the criminals. Apart from these, the field of criminology can be applied into all those scenarios wherever the regulatory norms set by the society and judiciary are at stake. Next, we come to relationship between the field of criminology and forensic science. As per definition, forensic science is the application of science to law. That is, it involves the application of scientific principles and methodologies to aid criminal investigation. Criminology, on the other hand, is scientific study of crime, including its causes, responses by law enforcement, and methods of prevention. Both the fields aim at analyzing the causes of crime along with developing strategies to prevent its occurrence in the society. The striking similarity between criminology and forensic science is that both deal with issues related to crime and criminal behavior. However, whereas forensic science deals with methodology and for solving the crime, criminology deals with various theories defining crime as social phenomenon. Further, forensic science involves application of tools and techniques for collection and analysis of evidence in order to solve crime. It brings in its fold different fields of sciences like biology, physics, chemistry, anthropology, etc. On the other hand, criminology works on social theories to study or learn about the behavior of criminals and their response of society towards crime and criminals. Lastly, taking into consideration their utility in criminal investigations, forensic science is used as an investigatory tool. Forensic experts use various techniques and methods for solving different types of crimes. Whereas in criminology, the details from the crime committed and the crime scene analysis are used as the basis to design a blueprint for explaining criminal behavior. In addition, the criminologists develop theories about crime and criminal behavior. Let us now discuss the last concept in this episode that deals with the different methods and techniques used in the field of criminology. For the study of criminal behavior, criminologists generally use 4 different types of methods. These are survey method, case study method, statistical procedures, and experimental methods. Let us discuss these methodologies one by one. Survey method deals with the data that is collected by asking questions to a large number of respondents. The implements often used under this technique are questionnaire, schedule, and interview guide. The informant fills out a questionnaire individually, while a trained investigator fills out a schedule. Questions in both are pre-structured. An interview guide consists of points in accordance with the questions which are put to the informants. It does not have structural questions. However, these implements do have some drawbacks. These include the inability of informants to comprehend the meaning of a question. They may have also selected an answer for which they may not have any strong opinion on the matter. They may give a conventional answer rather than a real one, or they may be influenced by the way the question is framed. The next method is the case study method. This method studies social phenomenon using an exhaustive and thorough study of individual cases. This method provides a prospect for a comprehensive analysis of many specific details that are often overlooked in other methods. The investigator probes into the social, medical, psychological behavior of an individual. A proportionate consideration is given to attitudes and perceptions as well as to the behavior of the individual. Information is collected from different sources such as families, schools, neighborhoods, professional zones, etc. Let us now learn about the statistical methods used for studying the criminal behavior. Statistical methods enable us to reduce a complex mass of data to simple units of measurements. For example, a criminologist may collect data concerning the period for which criminals remain under trial and are detained in prisons without any work, pointing out the lack of effectiveness of such capacity in reforming criminals. By using statistical functions like coefficient of correlation, a criminologist may also compare the figures of one group with those of others to reveal potential relationships. In the experimental method, the physical scientists employ the application of experimental methods. However, this method is not feasible in social sciences, as it is difficult to achieve control in such methods. Further, there are some ethical issues involved in conducting experiments, and problems pertaining to setting up the control groups also exist. Dear students, let us now conclude this episode by recapitulating what we have learnt in this episode thus far. The term criminology was first introduced by Paul Topinard, derived from a French word criminologia. Criminology is termed as a systematic study of the nature, extent, causes, control and prevention of criminal behavior in both the individual and society. It is a science that deals with different aspects of human behavior that violate criminal law. Sutherland and Cressy define criminology as the body of knowledge regarding delinquency and crime as social phenomenon. Criminology comprises of three principal branches, that are penology, sociology of crime and criminal etiology. Further, the only similarity between criminology and forensic science is the approach, where the interest lies in the issues related to crime and behavior of criminal from a scientific point of view. Lastly, for the study of criminal behavior, criminologists use survey method, case study method, experimental method and statistical procedures for the analysis of data obtained during criminal investigations.